Well, good morning. Hi, Michael Maples here, again at Dane Books and Gifts in the old quiet downtown Covington. And we have visiting with us today Stacie Eirich.
Hello.
And thank you. She's here promoting one of her books. Let me hear something about yourself. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Good morning. It's good to be here with you today. I'm Stacie Eirich, and I live here in Mandeville on the Northshore in Louisiana. I'm a mother of two, and a writer, obviously, and also a singer.
And she sings well too. I've heard her one time at everyone's always saying, "Oh, I want to write a book." Everyone says it, and everyone actually means it, and it's because something interesting has happened in their life that they are interested in, and we say we're going to write a book. What encouraged you to become a writer?
Well, I fell in love with books and with writing at a really young age. I started writing short stories as a kid, fantastical stories of magic and exciting adventures. I remember writing a Choose Your Own Adventure. Do you remember those? Mm-hmm. So I started really young. I was a total book nerd from the beginning, and it just continued all the way through teenage and into adulthood. I started writing a lot of poetry, and then I studied English at university. And
now, let me interrupt you right here. Mm-hmm. Two things. First off, I want you to explain the adventure books because many of the younger people may not understand that. Okay. And number two, I heard that within your books, you sneak in a lot of your poetry.
I do, yes.
Explain first the adventure books, and then I want to hear more about the poetry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. As a child, I loved the Chronicles of Narnia and the Oz books, and then a little later on, the Harry Potter series. So you can really see a lot of sprinklings of these influences in my writing. And I also have always loved poetry. When I was a kid, it was Shel Silverstein and Edward Lear. Just fun, exciting verses that would take me on an adventure. A lot of them were narrative.
Now, did you have anyone in particular in your life that encouraged you to write?
Definitely. I had an English teacher or two, actually, growing up that encouraged me from the start, and my parents have always been very supportive of my writing and my reading habits.
You said you have two daughters?
I have one daughter and one son.
How do they feel about your writing?
My daughter's very supportive. She definitely listens to a lot of my writing and about my journey to become an author and to get published. I'd say she's right in my corner. My son, sometimes he's conflicted. He's a bit more of a reluctant reader, and he definitely isn't into poetry, or he thinks that he isn't. I tried to change his mind about that. So we'll see. They're both teenagers now, so there's that challenge too. So when I talk about having an experience of wonderment and enchantment, yes, you have that in poetry, but a lot of it is grounded in real life and real life experiences. And I think, especially when I was a teenager, when I started writing lots and lots of poetry, it was to make sense of what I was experiencing in real life, of the bodily changes I was going through, and the changes in relationships with my friends and my parents. So yes, I think poetry is a way that we make sense of ourselves and the world. And no, a lot of it doesn't have to rhyme. I do love rhyming poetry, especially for children. I love the musicality in it. And so I do write some in more formal rhymed standards, but most of my poetry now is free verse. And is more contemporary. I'd love to share with you, this is from Tiger Kingdom and the Book of Destiny, which is the first book in the Dream Chronicles series. And a lot of the chapters in my books open up with poems. And so this is the first poem in chapter 1. I could hear the paws of the tigers pounding the pavement, the heaving sound of their hot breath against the chilly autumn air. I could see their golden eyes, striped coats glinting in the night shadows as they ran. I climbed into bed, freeing the sheet from underneath Jack's iron grasp. I tried to press my eyes closed tight, yet lay there for hours, eyes opening to the streets below, still seeing tiger stripes blazing in the light of the street lamp, still hearing the sounds of leaves rustling as they rushed past in the night, the wind moving steadily through the trees.
I have to tell you, I can envision all of that. That is written so well.
Thank you.
Yes, I
Well,
love
that's
it.
a narrative verse, free
No.
verse, but narrative verse
No,
that
very
starts
nice
our
indeed.
story.
Very nice indeed.
Thank you.
And again, just to mention it to you guys, we all have these little poems in us. We all have a book even in us. We don't all have the time and patience to sit there and do that. And so I have to applaud you for that. So I have to ask you, you have to have some sort of favorite spot to write, I'm sure. And of course, with having the children, you probably get interrupted anyway. So tell us, where is your favorite spot to write?
My favorite spaces to write are outdoors, on my back patio, looking out to the trees. I also like to go out to the nature center and do some walking and then find a space to write. However, this isn't always possible, and you're completely correct when you say that you have to learn to deal with interruptions as a writer who's also a parent. And you have to be able to go about your day-to-day activities while trying to fit writing in. And I think this became really relevant in the pandemic when suddenly everybody was home at the same time, and I found myself going back to the well of poetry, and I wrote many verses in 2020, and then in 2022 my daughter was diagnosed with cancer, and I found that I kept writing even through being in the hospital, being in the clinic, and navigating our new day-to-day routine of her treatments. And it became really a way of healing, and I am just amazed at the output that I continued to have even through one of the darkest times, if not the darkest time in my family's life.
Now, I again want to interrupt you on 2 points. First, I'm going to ask you, you mentioned your daughter.
Yeah.
I want to know, how is she doing? I'd like to know, was it a difficult task to still be able to write, or did you find yourself writing differently when you have tragedy?
Yeah.
Yes.
My daughter is 3 months cancer-free now, and so we're going through this. Thank you. Yes, it is something to celebrate. But we're going through this big transition now. We've come home from St. Jude, and our life is different. Yes, we are celebrating that life, and we're very, very grateful to have her life and our family's life back, but it's a different life. And so I'm still finding writing in whatever moment that I can, but I write a bit differently now. I think that was inevitable, that in all the changes we've had, that my focus and the way that I write was going to change. And so I find that writing now is all about our life and all about how we're healing and how we're changing.
Did you have a lot of prayer involved while she was being treated?
Yes, we definitely
I'd like
had.
to cover that a little bit.
Okay. We did have a lot of people praying for us. We received an amazing amount of support and mail from different church prayer groups, and we definitely went into a very spiritual place ourselves. I know that for me, poetry became that spiritual place, that place of restoration and breath and healing, where otherwise I wouldn't have found it, I think, on a mental level.
And I'm just curious, do you display any of that in your books?
Yes, definitely. The Dream Chronicles really came from an experience that happened to my mother as a child, and I have refashioned it into this dream that the main character Susie has in the beginning about tigers and animals escaping from a local circus. So there's that real aspect of dreams and magical mysticism in the books, but there's also a theme of faith and hope, and that belief in yourself, having faith in your dreams, knowing that what you saw could be real, or maybe you didn't see it but it still feels real. That's definitely a theme running through all of the books in the series. Well, I was a fan of the Oz books and the Wizard of Oz movie growing up, and I think that's a thread of what's running through my stories, is that when we feel lost and maybe we end up in another world, how do we find our way home? And then we have to decide, is home always in the same place, or can home be in more than one place? Can somewhere that you didn't necessarily grow up feel like home? Or is home a place? Is it a person?
I also have a question. You mentioned COVID. Do you plan to maybe write a separate book with nothing but some of your poetry that you wrote during the COVID time?
Yes, before my daughter's diagnosis, I was already planning a collection of poems that came out of 2020. And now I'm also planning a collection that has come out of our journey to her cure. So those two things, neither of which are published yet, but that's what I'm working on, and my heart is really in both of those.
If you have someone with any sort of special needs whatsoever, no matter how severe or not, find their main interest and work with that, because we all have a main interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so important. My daughter began her journey not having, previously to her diagnosis, she didn't have special needs. Now, after treatment, she does. So we're finding out how she can live with those, and she's very vocal and very willing to share her story with others, and it's so important to find those things that will help her heal mentally, not only physically, but on a mental level. She loves art. She loves to paint and draw. She's very creative and colorful, and so to have people and places and spaces that will recognize that just is pivotal in our journey to not only a cure, but her life after cancer.
Well, I think it's a good time to call it a day, if you will. But I want to thank you so much for sharing what you have. I want to put a little small commercial in here to mention that your books are here at
Yes.
Dane Book and Gifts, and I want to mention that you also have a little bit of artist in you. Don't think you have any artwork here, but
Well, my mother is a painter, actually, and an artist, and she is the illustrator of my series of the Dream Chronicles. So you
and
will
she
see...
is fantastic,
Oh,
very much
thank
apparently.
you.
So yes.
Yeah, my favorite one has to be... Let me show you. I'll find it. Here's a bit in the back. This is the Tiger King, King Samson, who stars in the series, and this is definitely one of my favorite drawings that she did. And she actually gave me all of her drawings after we finished writing and publishing the series. She gave me all of her original drawings to keep, and those are, yeah, my heart. I just like gold to
I can
paint.
only imagine. Yes, and well, I have to thank you, and if we might just say a real quick
Hold
prayer.
hands.
We'll just say a real quick prayer that for your daughter, for your mama, for you, for your family, that things work out for you, that your daughter in her next visit comes out a good visit, And we also pray for you out there that you enjoy this video and come visit here at Dane Books and Gifts, and definitely come to Covington, Louisiana, which is really growing into a real nice visiting area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.